If you're a young worker today, chances are you've heard this before. Why are young people quitting so fast today? Recent reports suggest many youths are leaving their jobs after just 18 months, raising concerns among employers about loyalty, experience, and long-term employability. I'm Raiman, and you're watching It's About Youth tonight, where we ask, is job hopping the new normal? Joining me are two young professionals with different career paths. Aida Safia, associate from Anatomy, who has moved between roles more frequently, and also Nur Adriana, events coordinator from Jiggy Events, who has chosen to stay and grow within one organization. Guys, thank you so much for joining me to unpack this conversation.
Thanks for the invite.
Okay, maybe we'll start with you first, Adriana.
Sure.
What initially made you decide to stay in your role, and how did that decision evolve over time?
So I started as an intern at the current company, and I adapted quite quickly and well to the job scope. I felt that we were introduced to a few responsibilities early on, and I felt that I caught on to it quite quickly. So from the very early start, I was very comfortable with the job scope and what I was learning there. And then over time, there was always new challenges that came about every single year that I have stayed. I have been there 4 years now. So every single year that I stayed, there were new challenges that came about, and that's why I have chosen to stay.
Now let's hear from someone who chose a different path. Aida, to leave, what usually triggers your decision to leave a job, and how do you recognize that it is no longer the right place for you? Yeah.
I mean, if you look at like the young people who have been invited to this segment, I think it's very obvious that young people nowadays, they're more aware and have more perspective about the world around us. People are more aware of work and labor. Like, for example, young people have questions about division of labor in the household, or like conditions of migrant labor. So if young people are asking all these big questions about the world around them, you're going to land at asking those big questions for yourself, right? So I feel like for me, that's what usually triggers the feeling that I'm not in the right place, where I start asking, am I in the right place doing the right thing? And then an extension of that, am I at the best place I can be doing the best thing that I can do? So when I start asking those kinds of questions, then you're ultimately led to thinking, what can you do? And maybe I'll elaborate this more later, but what can you do with your toolbox? Because I believe that building a toolbox or toolboxes and having a mastery over your tools is more important than building a career in this day and age.
Okay, now we want to look at how do we make sense of this. Adriana, why do you think staying longer at a job can still make sense for some young people, despite the growing trend of people changing jobs today that we are seeing today? Yeah.
I think it allows, at least since we are so young, it allows us opportunities and room for us to really shine and grow, right? Because if you stay longer, people start to recognize how you work and and then I would like to believe most companies, right, loyalty is rewarded, right? And when loyalty is rewarded, whether it's becoming like a promotion or better opportunities, then you have a bit more job security as well. So staying longer, and I think the job security is very important because on the other side, there may be some uncertainty in the pathway, whereas if you remain, then your life is sort of set in a way.
And Aida, from the other side, why do you think shorter stints, around a year or so, have become a workable option for young workers today compared to previous generations? Yeah.
Workable, eh? So I think that shorter tenures or shorter stints being workable to young people, it shouldn't be seen as like an individual choice wholly, but rather it's like a byproduct of a landscape that has shifted for some time. So maybe I can elaborate this like two ways. I think one very simple way is young people feel less beholden to like company loyalty because of we're more polarized towards the fact that a stronger economy, the benefits of it doesn't flow. It seems to flow disproportionately. So not everyone feels those benefits. So they feel like if it's not a reciprocal thing, then I don't have to be loyal. So that's like one very general prong of that statement. But I think the second dimension, which is a perspective that I feel like is more important that I can give, would be that I'm pretty sure you can relate too. Young talents nowadays, we enter the workforce after like a lifetime of like hyper stacking experiences and hyper stacking, like there's like business pitch competitions, hackathons, public policy competitions. We have young people not just leading organizations but enabling organizations, and like you hyper stack these achievements. So what does that do to young people? It normalizes transitioning between one high stakes environment to the next. So you're already so used to this, especially if you come like from environments like certain schools are very active, certain universities, if you come from a circle of friends who are like that. So I think it's a bit like ironic that a lot of companies, they want you to stay when the only reason you're able to reach that standard that they want is because when you were younger, you never stayed still. So it's quite ironic. So when you've been conditioned to always take on as much as you can, doing different things, and also these projects and competitions, and also like freelancing stuff you do, it not only normalizes transitioning from one high-stake environment to another, but you also can prove that you can you have a rapid-fire acquisition of new skills. So because of that, young people are less afraid to quit. They're less afraid to transition. Because maybe that sort of fear of like security is also a reason previous generations might have been afraid of transitioning to a different role or industry. Yeah.
Okay, now I want to bring this conversation to about what each part builds over time. How has remaining in one workplace shaped your skills, responsibilities, and understanding of your field in ways that perhaps those who have shorter stints might not? Yeah.
All right. So I work in an industry where I am exposed to opportunities across the region, across Southeast Asia. So because of that, I am a lot more mindful in how I handle. So being in events, I don't only just handle events in Malaysia and handle vendors and others like clients in Malaysia. I handle international clients as well. And I think the biggest area of growth comes from communication, because how we communicate as Malaysians is very different to, let's just say, our neighbors, how we communicate to our neighbors in Singapore, just because the work culture there is different.
Yeah.
So I think despite me remaining in one workplace, I have a multitude of opportunities across region, and that's how it's allowed me to grow.
And Aida, how do you evaluate whether moving to a new job will actually move you forward, or rather than just sideways or temporarily upward?
That's a good question. So I believe in Hank Green, I think, a science communicator and YouTube personality. I think he put it in very straightforward way. He says like, don't follow your dreams, but follow your toolkit. So in extension, if you do have a dream, maybe focus on building your toolbox or your toolkit, and a career is going to be a byproduct of that. So like whether you transition in a job from jobs or you stay in the same job, what is a toolbox or toolkit? So it's not just the skills that you have, but it's also like a sense of purpose, a sense of autonomy. What are you curious about? Because those things are what's going to fuel you to adapt, like take on new skills or learn new things. So how I know whether I'm going to grow in a new role, or whether I'm gonna, in what ways do I grow, is 3 ways. 1, if I gain new tools for my toolbox. 2, if I can create new toolboxes, maybe skills in different areas. Or 3, just generally gain a mastery of my toolbox. Because that's what I bring from each different role or project. So, and I do prefer it. Again, it's a very subjective thing, right? Some people prefer to be known by, like, for example, hi, I am a nurse, or like, hi, I'm an accountant. But I prefer like wherever I go, in whatever industry or role, that I'm known for my toolbox. And that way you're reliable, not based on a title, but like what you can do. Yeah.
And culture also often plays a big role in this decision in terms of changing your jobs. Adriana, what factors have mattered most in sustaining your decision to stay in a company? Yeah.
There are 2 main factors I would like to say. I think the leadership and the leadership that I have with me allows me to really grow in my own way, and it's in the sense that like every 6 months or every year we do these like one-to-one KPI talks, right? And is very straightforward between my leader and I on how I can continue to grow and how he sees my potential in the company. So having that trust from your leader to know your potential, I think really drives me to want to achieve the potential. So I think those are the factors. And then we're also like, so that's coming from like a personal career growth, right? And then obviously the workplace culture is a very good environment. We're a smaller company, but we are all very close, and it's a team-based, because we're in events, right? So you have to work as a team. So it's a very nice workplace culture.
And switching job also shapes you personally. And Ida, what have you learned about yourself through switching jobs more often? Yeah.
I think the answer to that would be very logical. With more data points, you get a higher confidence level. So if more people tell you this is your strength, you're gonna know that's your strength. But if more people tell you maybe this is an area you can fix, then that's so you can direct your focus on what areas of your life or how you work that you can improve or that you can kind of ignore because it's not that important. But I think one key thing for where I'm currently at, which is at Anatomy, it's a local lifestyle brand. So it's the environment is more like a creative startup. So it's very sandboxy. You don't really have like, levels of hierarchy where your opinions or like your feedback won't matter as much. So I find that was a priority in when I left my previous roles or when I left previous projects or chose not to re-engage with previous clients, because I find that I need the result of my work and my feedback to have like a tangible output. So it really depends on, so that's my priority currently, because so it's important that, because for young people, even if you've done a lot, there's still a lot for you to experience. So my priority at the moment is for me now. Yeah.
And both paths also comes with criticism when whether you change your job often or whether you stay too long. Now, Adriana, how do you respond to the idea that staying too long can limit exposure or slow career growth? How people say that if you want to get a better paying salary, then you change jobs. So how based on your experience, how do you respond to that? Yeah.
Okay, this is very interesting because I was presented with this challenge multiple times in particular last year when I hit about 3 years in the company. Everyone started being like, oh, well, you're not going to change company? Are you not going to change to a different events company and all of that? I don't think exposure is, I think exposure is only limited if you don't seek it. If you don't have if you lack the ambition, then to like seek the opportunities within your company, like within your company, you don't bother knowing more about what it is they do, or what are the different maybe other jobs that you may want to explore within the same company. I think if you lack the ambition, that's how your exposure is limited, right? And then for me, my personal experience, since you mentioned salary, I think I am someone who is driven by passion and ambition, and my financial interests, lucky for me, have come second. And that is why that has not become a faltering factor, though I do understand why it could be in this day and age. Yeah.
And Ida, how do frequent transition affect the way you build skills, personal identity, and then long-term direction in terms of your career? Yeah.
I think professional identity is something that's curated. So if you have different toolboxes, different skill sets that you have, it's easier to curate a personal identity for more jobs, for more work that you want to do. Again, it's based on priority. If you're someone who really, if your role requires you to have, become a subject matter expert, then it does make sense to stay longer at a certain project. But if your goal in life is different, that you want to try different things, or you want to be, like your end goal is someone who has this broad skill set, then it's easier to do that by transitioning from different roles. But another thing would be, I think a concern that a lot of people have for people who transition jobs is that, what if the next employer doesn't want to hire you because it seems like you jump a lot? That's a real concern because a lot of times people quit and it's an unwise quitting. But the thing is, I truly believe in the phrase that how you live your days is how you live your life. I know a lot of people say it's just a job, but if something is taking 40 to 50 out of your waking hours every week, it shouldn't be relegated to just. So you should be transparent when you're trying to apply for a new job that how I lived my days before this is not how I want to live my life. And I feel like my experience is that the employers, especially my current employer, do understand that. Like, I'm not gonna, like, they won't measure you against what you did in the past because it's very clear what you wanted to do then is different than you now, and what you want to do in the future is what you have committed to, especially taking that risk of quitting or transitioning. Yeah.
I want to bring back to the one you mentioned, unwise quitting.
Yeah.
You mind elaborating more on that? What does it mean by unwise quitting? Yeah.
I think for young people, being wise is better. Like, if you're trying to change jobs or taking a leap of faith, don't try to be smart, don't be rash, but be wise. And wisdom is something that you gain both in your professional and personal life. So what does wisdom mean, right? So it just means having as much insight as possible to make really sound decisions, to make decisions that, you know, by thinking of the cause and effect of your decisions. So a lot of people, yeah, maybe they quit out of some kind of like anxiety or FOMO, or they, you know, you have to be rajin. Don't be malas. So they don't want to work. So those kinds of quitting is unwise. You're not thinking of the cause and effect. You don't have total insight of what's happening, and you're making an unsound decision. Yeah.
And then, of course, every decision has trade-offs, like we discussed before. But Adriana, going specifically to you, what trade-offs have you had to accept by staying, and how do you decide those trade-offs were worthwhile staying in your job? Yeah.
Coming from a very intensive industry, I think everyone hears events and they're like scared by how intense it is. It is, I will admit, it is a very intense industry. I've had to make certain lifestyle changes on how I spend my time because unfortunately I am not your standard 9 to 5. I have very late working hours and all of that. So that means I need to plan my time in a way that I know I've had to rejig what I like to do into my time. So obviously my work has become first. My family is there, and then everything else in terms of my lifestyle, my hobbies and all of that, I didn't have as much time in the first maybe 1 year or 2 years because I was very like career focused. I was like work. But then I would say last year, in the past 1 year and a half, I was like, okay, this is what I want to do. I know I'm going to stay. How am I going to change my lifestyle so that it's more, I am more sustaining in the future, in the long run, because I still need to maintain my health. I still need to take care of my family. You know, there are certain hobbies I still want to spend time on. And so it's about that's like my biggest lifestyle change is how I've had to adapt my time to surround my work while still balancing everything else. Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. Ida, you mentioned before as well, like there's this risk of for job switching, that often that when you go to an interview, when you know the interviewer will say that this person is changing job that often, so that's one of the risks. So how do you manage this risk, because the risk of people usually associate with short tenures?
Yeah, for me personally, always have a backup plan. Do not do anything without a backup plan. And that's how I've managed risks. So instead of having like one job in this industry or role and then another job in this industry or role, like I said, take time and, you know, to build a toolbox. So you have multiple projects or roles in the same industry or in the same skill set. So in that way, you build what's very prominent is your passion in that skill set, even though it's multiple. So your passion towards that, your consistency and also your determination in order to fully master that skill set alongside others. Instead of it looking like someone who's just doing whatever they can or trying to run away from something, it looks like someone who's, I have a friend who said this recently, someone who's polymathic. I know it seems obnoxious to call yourself a polymath, but it just means someone who does a lot of things and is good at a lot of them. So, but I mean, as human beings, isn't that something that you aspire to be? Not everyone has to do that, but it is a good feeling to be able to learn, especially when we're young. because once you're like a certain age, you won't have that mental capacity, physical capacity anymore. You'll have commitments, other bigger commitments. So this is the age for experimenting. That's what I think. Yeah.
Okay, guys, let's end this conversation by looking ahead. You know, as the job market changes, Adriana, how do you think young people should decide for themselves whether staying or living is the better move at a particular stage of their career? Your advice to them? Yeah.
I would honestly say that you have to come down to your own personal goals. I think with so much stimuli now, with like the news and social media and all of that, we are so easily influenced by other factors. But I think it's very important to stay focused on what are your goals? What do you want to do, right? If you feel that you want to explore a new career, right, a new job, a new company, you must question yourself why. What are you seeking from that opportunity, right? And if you are planning to stay, likewise, what are your goals? You must have goals, you must have directions, and I think that is the best way for you to make that decision. Yeah.
And Ida, last word from you. Do you see yourself? How do you see yourself moving forward now? Are you going to continue, keep moving, switching jobs, or
at the moment, I like where I am. I'm definitely growing a lot, and there's a lot for me to learn. I guess whether I move forward or whether I change, I think two things would be, one, I hope to become wiser, and I think that's also what young people can like find out what is wisdom to you as a young person. What would a wiser version of yourself do? And also figure out what's in your toolbox and what would you look like if you can consider yourself a master of your tools that you have, and bring that with you whether you're advancing to the next level in the same role or whether you're going to change to the next role. Yeah.
I don't know. Ida, thank you so much for joining us today in It's About Youth. And
Thank you.
I guess that's all the time that we have for tonight's episode. I guess there's no right decision in terms of staying or living into this job switching or also staying in the job for a very long time, as long as you are sure that you are happy in that position and also that you can grow and you can learn a lot of things. Whether the most important thing is whether you're happy in the job, right?
Correct.
So I guess
definitely.
that's all the time that we have for tonight's episode on It's About Youth. I'm Rahman. Thank you for watching and good night.